Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's webinar titled USDA Foods COVID-19 Technical Assistance Sponsor Panel. We've been hearing of a lot of successes and challenges out in the field, and we have found that sponsors often learn best from their peers. We chose some experienced food service directors to share their experiences with you in the hope that you'll be able to learn and possibly try something different you hadn't thought of. Maybe even you will be able to share something new that they hadn't thought of. All attendees are in listen-only mode, but if you have questions, please send them in through the questions box on your GoToWebinar dialog box. We've reserved the last 15 minutes or so for questions and answers. This webinar is being recorded and will be available later in the week. Attached to this webinar, you will find two documents. The first is a certificate for professional standards credit, and the second is a FEMA procurement guidance document. This helpful document explains non-competitive procurement procedures allowed during public emergencies. We won't be talking about procurement regulations in this webinar, but if you have questions, please talk to our procurement compliance specialist, Richard Williams. And again, those are in the dialog box. You should see a handouts in the dialog box called handouts, and there should be two documents in there, and you can either download those to your computer or you can print them off. All right, so I'm Chris Basha, and I'll be today's webinar moderator. First up will be CNP Director Dustin Melton with an update on waivers and other COVID-19 news. Then we'll have our panelists. We have Debby Webster from Rainier School District, Michael Morris from Grants Pass School District, Shiloh Ficek from Newberg School District, and Ann Levens from Central Point School District. Thank you very much to them for volunteering to share their experiences. This has been a very difficult time for everyone. Also on the line is CACFP Summer Food Service Program Specialist Jessica Vizinski, who will be live during the Q&A webinar and may be able to provide some additional insight into questions that you may have. All right, so for today's discussion points, for each panelist, we'll include their methods of school closure feeding, challenges, types of USDA foods being used, and best practices strategies to utilize existing inventory in USDA foods. Before we proceed with the webinar, though, I have a quick polling question for the audience. Let me get that queued up here real quick. Okay, where are you guys all from today out there? All right, just give you a few more seconds to complete that. We have 68% reporting in, 73. We're getting there, we're getting close. Give you a few more seconds. All right, we're close enough. All right, this is the results. So predominantly Western and Oregon Valley, followed up by Eastern Oregon, actually. So we have quite a few folks from Eastern Oregon. Awesome. All right. So let's go ahead and keep going. So first up, we have an update from the Oregon Child Nutrition Program's head, Director Dustin Melton. Dustin, welcome, and go ahead with your update.
Thank you, Chris. As Chris said, my name is Dustin Melton. I'm the Director of Child Nutrition Programs with the Oregon Department of Education. And I just want to thank you for allowing me a few minutes of your webinar to provide some updates. And I've said this multiple times, but will never be said enough. Thank you for all that you are doing to ensure that meals are still being delivered to Oregon's kids. You guys are doing an amazing job, and can't say how much myself and our staff appreciate all the work that you're doing. So first, ODE CMP conducted a CMP COVID-19 webinar on Friday, April 29th. I'm sure several of you who are on this webinar also participated on that webinar. If you are unable to participate or did participate and wish to listen to the recording, our goal is to have the webinar and Q&A posted soon. Our hope is to get that posted and available by the end of this week. As a reminder, please visit our ODE CMP COVID-19 webpage for the most up-to-date information on meal service during the COVID-19 pandemic. We are using that webpage to post as much information as we can to keep you informed, including things like waivers, memos, Q&As, and any other guidance that either we've issued or that we've received from USDA. Related to up-to-date information, we've received 4 more USDA nationwide waivers just this week that we will get out to you as soon as possible. But I just want to quickly provide a high-level overview for you all. First, we received a waiver on the annual review requirements for state agencies for CACFP. So any CACFP reviews that were scheduled for this year that already haven't been conducted may be pushed to next year. Second, we received a waiver of the triennial assessments of school wellness policies. And for some context, implementation of local school wellness policy regulations in 2017 required the first assessment to be completed by June 30th, 2020. This waiver pushes that deadline back to June 30th, 2021. Third, we received a waiver of Food Service Management Company contract duration in NSLP and SFSP. Under program regulations, SFAs and summer food sponsors with a FSMC may contract for no longer than 1 year with options for a yearly renewal not to exceed 4 additional years. Many sponsors with FSMC contracts may be nearing the end of their 4th and last renewal year. Due to the need to secure contracts without delay, this waiver allows sponsors to extend existing FSMC contracts using emergency non-competitive procurement through school year 2021. And then lastly, and this is related to my bolded item on summer transition on the slide, we received a waiver that extends unanticipated school closures through June 30th, 2020. Essentially what this allows is a continuance of non-congregate meal delivery options that you're currently utilizing. For example, grab and go, parent pickup, bus route delivery, direct delivery through June 30th, 2020. So to date, this is the only guidance that we have received from USDA on summer transition. While this will allow you flexibilities to offer meals through June 30th, it does not provide assurances about those flexibilities for the remainder of the summer. And just for clarification, this is not what we anticipated, and it's not what we need to be able to support you in serving meals during the summer. This does not address the need for non-congregate flexibilities and area eligibility flexibilities for summer meals for July and August. And just please know that we are pushing as hard as we can as a state agency to USDA the importance and the need for these flexibilities to continue through the remainder of the summer. And as a region, the other Western region states have banded together to create a loud voice to stress how vital it is that these flexibilities are extended through the summer. I'm also aware that advocacy groups, and you may have heard this as well, have also stepped in to send the message to USDA. And as a follow-up, we as a state agency will be submitting a state-specific Oregon waiver request for non-congregate feeding for SFSP and SSO, as well as a state-specific Oregon waiver request for area eligibility. And as always, we will notify you once we receive additional guidance from USDA. And just one more quick item before I turn it back over to Chris and our other panelists. I want to provide just a little bit of clarity on the governor's executive order that extended school closures through June 30th of 2020. Our office has received lots of questions, including a question that we received during last Friday's webinar from districts if it's required to continue meal service if your school year ends before June 30th. And just for clarity, the executive order was written for the time period to end on June 30th, 2020 to ensure that all normal school operations for the 19-20 school year were covered. However, each school should follow their normal individual school calendars that they have adopted. So there is not an expectation that schools must operate until June 30th. Therefore, districts are not required to provide meal service after their normal school closure date. So for example, if your school year ends and closes on June 12th, then the requirement to serve meals ends on June 12th. And our hope and recommendation is that at that point, when the school year is in, that you would transition to offering summer meals after that date. So Chris, that's the end of my update, but I'm going to hang on through the remainder of the webinar to listen and then be available for questions.
All right, Dustin. Thank you very much. So the first of our 4 panelists is up. Go ahead, Debbie, and share your views on the discussion points.
All right, thank you, Chris. Start out with, I just want to say, I feel that what child nutrition programs across the state have accomplished in the last 6 weeks is amazing. What usually takes us weeks to prepare for summer lunch was accomplished in less than 72 hours, which I know we've all put in lots of long hours. Moving from regular program to feeding kids in a cafeteria to bus routes overnight. I originally planned for 3 routes on that Friday afternoon when I left, and when I came in and talked to my transportation director on Monday morning, she told me we were going to need 6 routes. So that was a lot of real quick replanning and organizing with my staff. And I feel like problem solving has become the norm for all of us. So we decided to do bus routes and to deliver meals to bus stops. We have 59 official stops, and I have 5 community sites. As you can see, I have week 1. We were still doing boxes and whatever we had available. And then by this week, I've been able to pick up some soft-sided ice chests and to make sure that we're doing our food safety protocols. On our first day, I served 174 meals. We were excited about that. And then by this last week, we were serving 463 meals a day. So it has just grown. One more thing I wanted to add to our bus route is each bus route, after we're done, they all have a stop at the end that they sit for 30 minutes. So if somebody does not get their lunch, it's right there and ready for them. I'm going to go ahead and flip slides. There we go. So some of our challenges, we've had lots of challenges over the last 6 weeks. One was lack of food and supplies. So the number one thing that we were short on is cereal, breakfast items, and needing to be creative by using our pancakes. You know, at first I'm like, well, how do you get pancakes out? We bagged them up and we sent them out. That was, I think breakfast is our biggest challenge. Supplies, sanitizing wipes. I happened to go through Walmart early in the process, so I bought some, and now we're almost out. So, and you can't find them. So those are some things that are like sanitizing the buses and being, having something on the buses to help my staff sanitize stuff. Another part of lack of food is ordering. We would order what we needed. Nothing would be available, and then so you order other items instead. That would go through, and then the next day when our order showed up, everything showed up. So all the stuff that said was out of stock, and then everything that extra that we purchased, and now we have all this extra food. A solution that we've come up with that is, and part of OCNC, they sent some stuff out, was to call it, once I get all those orders that say this is out of stock, call the distributor, say, hey, these items are out of stock. Are they coming in today? Do I need to order something else instead? That way you have that communication between yourself and the distributor so you know what's actually coming. Because I usually get maybe a $2,000 order, and I had a $5,000 order because everything showed up. So then I have a storage issue would be one of my next, this is my last one, but the storage issue is the next one, because now all of a sudden I have a lot of cereal that I don't need 7 different cereals, but that's what I ended up getting. So we have now moved out into our cafeteria to store food, as you can see in the 2 pictures. So it's just one of those trying not to over purchase, but then it showed up and we had no idea what was coming a couple times. We've got that figured out now, I think. Another challenge is the constant change. Seems like we are constantly problem solving one thing or another, fine tuning something. One of our issues was the coolers not fitting on the bus well, and trying to figure out how to solve those. Having enough room to actually produce the number of meals we're doing as sack lunches. So you can see my first picture is week 1 is my kitchen, it's not a real big kitchen for making 460 stacked lunches. And so we have moved out into our cafeteria. So, great place. Nobody's out there. It's pretty much, we've blocked it off. So as you can see in week 2, we've got tables out there. We build our sandwiches. We build our stuff on that, on the tables out in the commons. And we have 6 routes, so we have 6 tables for building those. Staffing, using nutrition services. We're using nutrition services staff. We're using bus drivers, instructional assistants, and secretaries to get the food out to families. Couldn't do it without our transportation department. Everyone has stepped up and they're working together and putting together different teams I've never even hardly met. I've never met my bus drivers until 6 weeks ago, and now they're my staff. So it's been quite the challenge working with everybody, but they're amazing, and we're getting it all done. District delivery system, this has been probably my biggest, we're food service directors and we do food. I'm now delivering packets and technology packets, and that's all going through our department. And so 6 weeks ago, if you told me a street in Rainier, I probably couldn't tell you where it was, and now I can pretty much tell you what part of Rainier all these streets are, because it's been such a learning experience. Saying a kiddo can tell me they live on Fern Hill, and I can tell you where that's at now. 6 weeks ago, I could not have done that. So just doing the whole delivery system has been quite a challenge, and getting the homework back. I had some staff that did not want, they had a lot of fears about taking the paper back from families. Is it contaminated? How do we do that? So we have boxes that are on each of the buses, and the kids put it there. They don't touch the food. And then we bring it back. We quarantine that paper for 24 hours before it is then sent out to families. And that was one of those challenging pieces, is trying to figure out how to make that work, and is it safe, and all of that. So, and then I already talked about, the staff fears. I had one person that said, I won't ride a bus if I have to pick up papers. And so she's now working in the kitchen instead of out on site. So trying to get that staffing, making sure their fears are taken care of, making sure we have enough staff has been challenging. And as we go on and people start getting sick, it becomes more challenging. Yeah, I think that's it on that one. USDA foods. So my number one goal when this came up on March 13th, is like my number one goal for serving was to use what I have in my freezer. So we're doing hamburgers, we're doing unbreaded chicken, we're doing diced chicken, we're making tacos with our diced chicken, we're doing tacos with chicken fajita meat. We only serve a cold sandwich 1 day a week. We are going to move into doing 2 days a week as we get a little bit farther on, just because I'm running out of some stuff. We do pulled pork, so I do a 6-ounce cup with the pulled pork, and we wrap this bread separate. That way the sandwich bread doesn't get all soggy from the pulled pork. We did turkey sandwiches today. We pre-portion. We take canned fruit and diced fruit, and we pre-portion it into containers for the families. And the one thing we've done for solving, I didn't talk about this as a challenge, but what do you do if you have 75 kids on the route, we have 75 lunches, and we have extra people show up that we weren't expecting? How do you take care of those families? And what I have done is I do 3 containers of food. It's extra food on every route. They have Rubbermaid containers with protein packs, and the protein packs have goldfish grounds in it, sunflower seeds, and the individual USDA peanut butter. And we ran out of some of those. We've made our own, and that we call a protein pack. So that would be the entree for the day for those kiddos if we run out of food. 1 container that has 3 different fruits and vegetables. They have 20 of each fruit or vegetable, so that we can make sure we cover our breakfast, our lunch, and our dinner, our breakfast and our lunch. And then we have a container with 20 cereals and then lunch sacks, so that they can put together a lunch right on the spot if we run out of food. And they also take an ice chest with milk in it, so that we make sure we have all the components we need if they don't have enough food on their bus. For the most part, we have not had to touch into those. I took a lot. My staff at first, we were like, had a lot of extra food, and they come back with 20, and they're like, oh, I only had 20 today. And it's like, well, I really want that to be 5. And so convincing them that if, because with 6 routes, if everyone has 5 lunches left, that's still 30 lunches we're throwing away. So trying to get them to realize that you've got your protein packs if you run out of food. So you need to, get our counts down. And so we finally, yesterday, we actually ran out of food and didn't have enough for all of my staff ate that we had at the end. And I think we had like 5 staff members that didn't get food because we had ran out of food for that day. So just making sure that we have enough food on the buses. So I think that's it.
All right, thank you, Debbie. Next up, we have Michael Morris with Grants Pass. Michael, you want to go ahead? Hey, Michael, it appears that there's something going on with your audio. So if you could call back in to the GoToWebinar using the email invitation that you got using the 1-800 number. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next panelist until we can get you back on, because I cannot see your audio. All right, so Shiloh, I hate to put you on the spot, but you're up, man.
Hey, no worries. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, so crazy times. So when we initially, I think it was March 12th, as we started to get news that we were going to start going in kind of a shutdown. So March 13th, I think I scrambled to all my schools just to kind of do a snapshot inventory of what we had on hand, USDA food, Cisco, you name it. And that following week, the 16th, is when we activated our current summer food sites. We currently only usually operate 5, but I went down to 4 just for that initial week. But we knew that the outreach without summer food and school not being in session, we realized that we were only going to hit a small fraction of what our school district is. So the board and the superintendent and we all gathered together, and we were going to launch a bigger outreach as April 1st with 12 more sites. And at that time, ODE didn't have the waiver for those sites because the census data didn't support the sites that we were looking to open. So we were going to pay for that out of the general fund, which was a stressful time. But now they're all approved, so I'm very happy. So thank you, ODE. So instead of doing separate breakfast times and lunch times like traditional summertime looks like for us, we decided to do breakfast and lunch served together, and we felt like the appropriate time would be around the 10:30 to 11:30 pickup. Took 9 schools that we had, and I wanted to consolidate them down to 4 locations. Took my biggest kitchens for production, knowing that the expansion could be what it is today, because the first day we started with 250 meals, which we were excited about, working with communication and trying to get that out to families, creating flyers, all the stuff that we've all been kind of scrambling over the last few weeks to kind of create better advertisement, boost our participation. As of last week, we're about 1,800, 1,900 meals a day. And this week, we've gone up to about 2,200 a day. So we're seeing that steady growth, and it's catching like wildfire. So we also approached that at our food sites, incorporating buses as a central point for students to make a relation with school. And so if a student were to look for a school bus at any location, they would know that food would be served at that location. So we use that kind of as an advertising piece. We're doing that even handing packets out and different educational materials. I think, as Debbie said, we're all in this together, and it's amazing to see. We have EAs working with us currently, bus drivers. I went from a staff of 26 and now I have 80. So the teamwork has been amazing. Definitely stressful absorbing that many staff and trying to get them trained and educated about our program. but it seemed to go pretty smooth. Chris, you want to flip the slide?
Yes, sir.
All right, and so I want to talk a little bit about challenges. One that I mentioned is, continue the outreach. I think that we're all in the position that we know that there's more people in need out there. We might be hitting different percentages. What I said, we did 250 that first day, and a student body, our student count is 4,500. But then you got to think about the kids that aren't enrolled in school that are between the ages of 1 and 5. So continuing that outreach, whether it's newsletters, social media, so being really proactive as a school district to promote what we're doing. Next year's forecasts, everything being up in the air, that's been a huge challenge. Especially all of us were in the same boat of finalizing our commodities and our diversion right before all this hit, and I think that was stressful. And I was like, man, what should I switch? Because I was really thinking that this was gonna impact the rest of the school year, and this is what we were thinking, that this wasn't going to be a short-term thing, that we were going to be faced with this for a few months. So that's stressful, and I want everybody to know we're all in the same boat. Using up certain things faster maybe than what we anticipated, like our sliced meat. I thought I would have a little bit of sliced meat left over by the end of the year. Definitely not the case. I told Chris Fascia that the trading post is going to be pretty interesting next year for all of us. He's probably going to smack me through the phone. Utilizing commodities and diversion, I think that was a big thing, of taking inventory from all my schools, using what we had first. Taking a look at, when I broke out to 4 kitchens, I assigned a kitchen that was closed down to one of my managers and said, you need to work off this inventory, paper goods, breakfast items, lunch items, whatever's in our freezer. And we've done a really good job of minimizing our purchasing. One thing I recommend, that during this time, for your purchase orders, code them with COVID-19, so you can have a good record and a snapshot and a reflection during this time of what your purchases were like. Because who knows, we don't know what next year brings, but it'd be very great information for everybody to be able to pull as a snapshot. Staff union and equity, I think this has been a big one for all of us. And if not, my hat's off to you, and you're lucky. We're an essential employee. We're being recognized at a different level now, which I think is great, in how we capitalize on the acknowledgement that our departments have been getting. I think some of us, we can often feel that, nutrition is maybe just an afterthought sometimes in a school district, but we do realize how important our job is, and we are being recognized. And I'm taking this as an opportunity to kind of unify my staff and unify just the district of how important our department is. Equity, I tried creating, because everybody's working from home and getting paid, and our staff is not. We're working, so part of the equity part of people being able to work from home, I created a rotation system for my staff, a 1 week on, 1 week off. This has helped when we've incorporated EAs to kind of keep our program running. They're getting a break, kind of like everybody else. And you still get complaints about they have 9 days off in a row. And I get it. Sometimes it's discouraging, but keep plowing forward. And with doing the rotation, though, it has provided a safety net for our department, just in case one of our staff was diagnosed with COVID-19 and that entire staff had to go on lockdown. My rotating kitchen staff, now that we are separated, would come and be the relief. I think that was one big stress for me going into this, of how do we protect a program and make sure that there's no glitches in feeding the kids in our community. Communication's been a big thing for challenge, but it's been also an awesome growth opportunity. I've really tried creating unity with my staff this year since I've taken over Newberg, and I think this is a time that they have really seen that we have to grow together, be on the same page more than ever, and our standards are the same. Especially launching 16 sites, we want to make sure that all of our sack lunches are containing the same things. one's not a little light, one's not overloaded. So the communication between our staff, it's been challenging, but it is honestly up on the upswing where it's going to have some positive growth for us when we go back to our normal. When that is, I don't know. And then giving children a variety of food to grow participation. I think when we first started, it was PB&J and deli sandwiches, trying to get those numbers down and getting a forecast of when we could start using hot food. But we knew that we would have to incorporate some kind of hot food because a kid's going to get tired of a turkey sandwich, a tuna sandwich, or a PB&J. So we're very proactive about incorporating that. We've done a really good job about using USDA foods. And take a look at that next slide. So these are some of the foods that we're using: ham, turkey, tuna on sandwiches. We're doing pulled pork, homemade chili, diced chicken for salads, frozen fruit cups, canned fruit, portioning them out, any of our boxed raisins, cranberries, burgers, rice, egg patties. We're doing breakfast sandwiches for lunchtime, but also egg patties. I kind of thought outside the box, and I made egg salad out of egg patties, which I thought was a different utilization of that product that I never thought of, but I need to use it up. Beef crumble for spaghetti, fish sticks. DOD's been great. All the pre-portioned pack size, or if you guys are a part of Duck Produce, they have a lot of pre-packaged broccoli, celery, cauliflower, carrots that are making things easier when you're doing mass numbers. And then doing a lot of our diversion, continuing with that. Yang's, I know we all divert different products, but there is a way to get hot food to these kids, and it's setting yourself up, whether it's panning things up the day before, the right cooler bags, getting the right containers. But Cisco's been very supportive in helping find that. And I know I'm going to share this with Chris, but I think for all of us, we need to lean on each other. And if you want to bounce ideas, I'm going to provide my information that you guys feel free to call. And I would love to chat with you, brainstorm ideas, because I guarantee you're probably doing something that could benefit my program, and we can all help each other out on this. What else? So this was our steps to utilizing inventory. As I said, it was we wanted to utilize what we had. Okay, and this is just some snapshots of our cafeteria. Has obviously been reconfigured since we're not serving students. So trying to put things out in our cafeteria commons area where we assemble our sack lunches, kind of taking some of that prep out of our kitchen and assembly, and using it in a bigger area for social distancing, and especially when incorporating more staff like EAs, it's really helped with our production. I think, Chris, I got one more slide, I think.
Yep, so this is your video, Shiloh. You ready for me to go ahead and play it?
Yeah. This is a video from one of our principal that she has kids that come across and get lunch every day, and I think that's been a really rewarding experience that we're providing some kind of normal thing for these students during this difficult time in distance learning. And this was just a quick snapshot that they provided me with some permission. So go ahead, Chris.
Shiloh, did you hear the audio on that?
No, I didn't. Well, I'll kind of just tell, I think the main reason why I wanted to put this out there for everybody is all three of those students really recognized that they were getting a little bit, a piece of school that they were missing. Sorry, are you there?
Yeah, go ahead, Shiloh.
But yeah, so just
Okay, go ahead there, Shiloh.
sorry, I was getting feedback. But no, I just wanted to, share that all of the work that we're doing, we're giving a piece back to these students, a part of what, was part of their normal routine during the school year. And my hat's off to everybody. I think that we are all heroes right now and being recognized at a whole different level. So please take advantage of it. I think this is a good opportunity for us to build our programs even more in the years to come. And I think that that's all I got, Chris.
Okay, I'm going to try one more method to get that to play, so hang on just a second. Yeah, it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
No worries, man.
All right, so thank you, Shiloh, for that. Michael, were you able to join us yet? It does not look like Michael is able to join us. So we're going to go ahead and move on to Ann Leavens from Central Point. Okay, Ann, you should be live.
All right, thank you, Chris. Like Chris said, I'm Ann from Central Point School District down here in Southern Oregon. We started serving basically like everybody else, probably that first Monday after school was closed. We had a slow start, which was nice. We were only serving at 4 school sites to begin with, and then our bus stops rolled out April 1st. And I think the bus stops are what we can really attribute all of our the bump and meal participation has been amazing, and it's been really neat to see the district come together as a group, because the bus distribution is handled mostly by educational assistants and other staff that are working on the bus sites. We don't have enough staff to work the buses. And in April, we started distributing on Fridays a Saturday breakfast and lunch bag. And then this week will be our first week where we're distributing a Saturday and Sunday meal bag. We've had really good reception from that. And we supply a frozen entree item for lunch in the meal bag with directions on how to heat it. So for the meal bags, we've been doing the whole grain corn dogs, breaded mozzarella sticks, and chicken nuggets, things that are easy for us to wrap in foil or put in a bag, and then ideally easy for the parents or guardians to heat up for their kids. Social distancing has probably been the biggest challenge for us at our actual school sites. It took a while for our guests to get the concept, and a lot of marking on our different sidewalks and areas that we're serving from. But they're doing much better right now, and it's nice to see that everyone's kind of keeping their distance as they're standing in line. We definitely were using inventory. However, we're kind of at the point where our inventory is not as great as I thought it was. And I'm now looking at what are we going to need to order. Breakfast items have been especially hard to get. I think manufacturers are having a hard time. Same problem they're probably all having. For us, we're really lucky. We have a warehouse and we have the storage space. So I've been ordering as much as I can get, knowing that we'll probably be serving like this through the end of June, just so that I have food to serve our families. And we are still running 2 of our 3 fruit and vegetable programs. So 2 of our school sites, all the meals we're serving have an extra fruit or vegetable item in their bag. And we have a lot of entree choices every day. That's kind of always been our thing. And what's kind of nice about our district is even at the district level, each school's not really a cookie cutter. Each school kind of gets to do their own thing, and we kind of adopt that same philosophy with our meal program. We have main items available every day: sun butter and jelly, deli sandwiches, and normally a menued hot choice, and then the rest is kind of up to the school site based on what they can produce with the facility they have. And then Chris, if you want to change the slide. I mean, listening to some of the other folks, I think I'm lucky. 71% of our staff are working, and a few of our staff members have been happy to work as long as they're working solo. So they come in the afternoon, they work by themselves, they stuff bags, they get weekend stuff together, they help out with whatever's needed, and they don't have to see anybody or be in contact with anyone. And our district chose to pay all folks working in buildings $2 more an hour. So I think that's helped with our staff willing to work. I have to say I'm really lucky. My staff is committed, and they, for the most part, seem happy to be at work and are happy that they have a place to go every day, and love seeing the kids. The harder part's been our warehouse and receiving, but I think we have that figured out. I'm getting a little more help with another staff person who is looking for work to do, which has been nice because, as you know, we have a lot of work to do, and being a part-time warehouse person has been a little bit of a struggle. Some of the things we started doing this week was we moved milk coolers from school sites we aren't using because we were finding we were short on space, and we're borrowing equipment from other school sites just so that everyone has adequate space. We had a lot of catering supplies already, so we were really lucky that we were already set up to get going on hot meals, and we had a lot of the equipment to keep hot foods hot and cold foods cold. I've purchased probably 30 coolers, I think, over the last 4 weeks. We keep needing more, which is great, a great problem to have. And I've been really utilizing Webster.com online for paper supplies. That was our biggest struggle. Our distributors were out of paper sacks, they were out of saddlebags, and that's been what I've been utilizing to ensure that we have what we need to get our meals out. And I've also been able to get triangle pizza boxes, some other clamshell containers that have been great for storing hot food to send out on our bus routes. And I really was looking for a way that we could continue to use the inventory we have on hand, and how can we package it successfully and get it out to our kids. And then my last slide is just some pictures of what we're utilizing. Chris, if you want to go forward one. We have the Cambro carts there, the campus carts, I guess. We have 3 of those that are really awesome to serve from. All the sites have pop-up or the easy up tents to help give shade for everyone. we're pretty lucky in Southern Oregon. Our weather is pretty awesome compared to the Portland area. We don't get nearly as much rain. And then we use the hot heating discs. I got clear plastic bags for our weekend bags. We've been using totes for packaging for sending out our sacks. And then all of our hot holding equipment is kind of there in the middle. Have been all tools we've been using for the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks. Those are just some of the things we're doing down here in Central Point. Thanks, Chris.
All right, thanks, Ann. All right, Michael is actually messaging me, and he's continuing to have some audio problems, so we'll hope that he can get back on. If not, we're just going to continue on and talk about some other stuff here. All right, so I just want to talk real quick about the USDA Foods actions taken in here in Oregon and what I can speak to. Working with our contractor, Good Source Tools for Schools, Alpine Food Distribution, we did push a lot of your April Part 2 deliveries back into May. Typically, we are supposed to be wrapping up all the deliveries in April, so Part 1 and Part 2. Sometimes we push into the beginning of May, but never this far out. We did that to help ease some of the inventory issues out there. But the contractor does have restrictions on inventory and how much they can hold and how long they can hold it and all that. So typically we clear out the warehouse every year about this time because they don't store. There's nothing in our contract to allow for storage over the summer. So that's why they did allow, if you contacted them, they did have space for you to privately contract with them for storage. We had quite a few sponsors that couldn't take their food, and that's fine. So what we did is we reallocated some of that out to people that we knew could use it. And we also actually donated some of it to the Oregon Food Bank. USDA Foods can be donated to either one of your peers on the field, so a local school district for them to use, or they can be donated to a benevolent organization such as the Oregon Food Bank, or even your local food bank in your community. But again, that's only if you can't use it. I'm not just saying to freely give that out because you need to take care of yourself first and you need to take care of your kids first. Next, we requested the USDA DoD fresh vendor, duck produce, to bring in individually wrapped products. As you can all imagine, this is very, very difficult during this time because the whole country is requesting this stuff. They were able to get some individually wrapped celery first. Baby carrots, individually wrapped, are almost non-existent. So they're still working on that, but it's basically a supply and demand issue. It just is not available. I think I notified you guys last week that there should be individually wrapped broccoli and cauliflower available now, as well as individually wrapped little lettuce salad packets. And you can pair those with dressing or whatever you wanted to. So Duck's been a really good partner with us, and they're really trying. And then I had another question about, well, what are we going to do in the fall? Because there's probably going to be some of this. There's probably going to be we're going to have school. There'll probably be some restrictions, but typical salad bars as we know them might take a while to reappear. So I already talked to Sharon at Duck, and yes, we're planning on continuing to offer individually wrapped products into the fall, as well as bulk, because some stuff's always going to be in bulk, and you're just going to have to package it up in whatever TC cup or whatever you use. And she said that supply should actually be better in the fall because by that time there will be more producers on board with wrapping stuff. And again, the demand will start to probably die out from some of that stuff as some of the social distancing and other things are phased out, hopefully. We created a vendor Google Doc, USDA Foods commercial grab and go, minimal handling products document. And basically, we sent an email to the processors and brokers that we do business with here in Oregon, and asked them to submit grab-and-go type things that require minimal handling, etc. We didn't care whether it was USDA Foods or not. We just wanted a list. So we have a tab for USDA Foods, commodity, processed items, and then we have a tab for commercial items. Now, some of the items on the commercial tab are USDA Foods commodity, but because the state doesn't have any pounds with that processor, it basically has to be treated like commercial. So we basically listed everything there. It's really up to you to contact them to find out if and how you can get it. We're hearing of a lot of bottlenecks at the distributors. We're aware of it. There isn't much I can do about it, other than I did talk to Good Source Tools for Schools. Alpine Food Distribution does have the capacity to take in inventory and distribute it, whereas some of the others do not. So I did pass that along to all the processors and brokers in the state of Oregon. So they're aware of it, that opportunity exists. A lot of it has to do with volume and routes. Obviously, they can't run 20 cases of something out to the middle of nowhere. They have to build a truck and they have to build routes. So it's all about logistics and cost. So anyways, they said they'd work with the processors and brokers the best that they could. We also issued the carryover pound notice for those that process with processors. We will not be sweeping school year 18-19 pounds. So again, that's a year ago pounds until July. They were supposed to be swept in April. We extended out to July. And even then, what we're going to do is if you can use them come this fall, you can request to have them back. So we're going to be pretty flexible on that. We don't want to penalize you for something that you can't bring in right now. And then one more thing, school year 19-20 pounds automatically roll over into school year 20-21. Those still should be used by December 2020. And we'll just wait and see what happens with inventory levels. There's just a lot of unknowns now. So we'll just wait and see, but just know that your pounds automatically roll over. You don't need to do anything. Don't panic. Don't worry. And then we'll just wait to look at inventory levels in the future, and we'll take action at that time. Something else I wanted to mention real quick, because somebody asked it, is what's happening with entitlement and stuff for next year. Well, we don't really know. So sorry to tell you that, but USDA is working on it. So ACTA, the American Commodity Distribution Association, is the main advocacy group for USDA Foods. They met with USDA headquarters staff last Friday, and they're advocating on our behalf. So they're trying to see what can happen. USDA believes that it actually has the statutory authority already to change the entitlement for next year based on what happened this year, meaning that this year we'll almost pretend like it didn't happen, because if we use because as you know, next year's entitlement was estimated based on last year's meals, and then we give that to you in WebSCM, and then you order based off of that. But then in the fall, when the final 19-20 meal counts are in, USDA does a reconciliation, and then they true it up, and that's when we send out the notice saying, hey, you have some more entitlement you need to spend. Here's some surplus stuff you can spend it on, etc. Well, just say, for example, we went along as we are now. Some of you are serving a quarter of the meals that you would during school, typical school day. So this would be absolutely devastating to your entitlement amount and the state entitlement balance. So what USDA is considering is using the prior year's school meal count and just pretending like this year didn't happen. And that would be a nationwide, basically waiver sort of thing. So that's what ACTA wants. Hopefully we can get that through. And again, USDA believes that they already have the statutory authority to do that because of the Coronavirus Act that was just recently passed by Congress. So when I know something, I'll tell you. But basically, I'm asking you not to panic at this time because there's a lot of things that are going to be worked out, and I'm sure that things will work out for the best. So